Hello, this is the RPG Crawler and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game. This week I wanted to examine something with a little bit more involvement than the RPG light stuff that I've been stuck with, so I picked one out that I'd actually been eyeballing for a few weeks now. For the King was developed by Iron Oak Games and published by Curve Digital. It was released on Steam on April 19th, 2018, and is available there and on GOG.com. For the King is a party-based, turn-based RPG with a focus on exploration and randomized events. It's got a few included campaigns and a basic support for multiplayer. It has a system and playstyle that are reminiscent of tabletop gaming, although it seems to be more in line with RPG-inspired board games than pen-and-paper RPGs. In terms of plot, each of the game's adventures is standalone and has its own story. For the main game, the king has been assassinated and chaos is sweeping through the land, so the queen sends 3 heroes off to search for the source of the chaos and eliminate it. For the dungeon crawl mode, it's more of a free-form affair, where you simply delve into dungeons to destroy chaos generators. And for the Frost Adventure campaign, it's all about a treasure hunt in a frozen, inhospitable wasteland. Now, there are some minor rules differences from campaign to campaign, but for the most part, play progresses pretty similarly. First, a party is created, with 3 characters. Each character can belong to one of the available classes, with some of the classes locked until later in the game. They can then be named and customized. In a multiplayer setting, these characters are controlled by different players. The basic classes are fantasy archetypes, albeit lower-powered ones than some games may feature. The Hunter is a ranged attacker, the Blacksmith your basic melee, Scholar is a sort of mage, and Minstrel a bard and general support character. Other classes have to be unlocked in the lore store, and some of them also require in-game events to be accomplished before they can be unlocked. The Trapper is a bit of a rogue, Herbalist augments healing items, Busker is a sort of advanced minstrel, and the Woodcutter is another meleeer. The Hobo and the Monk require you to encounter them in the main storyline and Frost Adventure respectively before you can unlock them for future playthroughs. Each character has a number of abilities. Health acts as basic hit points, of course, but then there's Armor, which decreases physical damage received. Resistance does the same for magic, Evasion makes it easier to dodge overall, Experience accrues over each battle or quest completed, and level increases as the character gains experience. There's even a pipe stat that can be used to increase the effect of healing herb. Characters have a number of stats as well. Strength, vitality, intelligence, awareness, talent, speed, and luck. Each of these may increase the effect of certain items and objects in the game, but are primarily used to resolve tests. Pretty much everything in the game that requires a dice roll is a test of some sort. A weapon attack may test strength, for instance, at which point a number of dice, based on the particular test in general, are rolled. Each success results in a success icon, while failure results in a failure icon, and then the overall number of successes determine the outcome overall. For an attack, this may affect damage dealt, with perfect across-the-board successes resulting in a special effect. For other tests, you may require multiple successes, or even a perfect success roll to have any success at all. During tests, you may spend focus to automatically get one success icon. Focus is also used on the main map to move additional hexes, which brings me around to exploration, a big part of the game. The main map consists of a world of hexes of different terrain. Some of those hexes may include things such as towns or monsters, while others yet may contain events, dungeons, or other places of interest. Each of the 3 characters in the party take their turns individually, and at the start of their turn their movement rate is rolled in much the same way as most other challenges are, with a certain minimum movement given based on their stats and equipment. Although each of the 3 characters moves individually, they may occupy the same square, and if one encounters combat, others who are within range may join in. This can allow you to split the group to a certain degree, although there are limits, and even within those limits you should be careful, since enemies can likewise group up and take on your characters individually if you misjudge how far the others are away. Further, not all tile events are exposed on the map. As you walk around, certain events may pop up as you near them, or even as you step into the tile. This can make for ambushes and surprises that can provide unpleasant stops in your exploration. Also, as each turn advances, the day advances, and likewise the timeline does. As day deepens into night, more monsters come out, although during the next dawn some of them may retreat. There are also chaos tokens that creep along the timeline, and when one reaches the present on the timeline, chaos events can spawn in, resulting in a more dangerous world. These can be staved off by defeating certain chaos generators, completing storyline quests, and completing certain quests from towns. Which brings me to the towns themselves. Towns are useful to restock as well as to pay for healing and other services. Each town is simply a menu that can be browsed while your character is on the tile. A quest can be selected in each town as well, which gives a choice of rewards, ranging from gold to items to pushing back chaos for a bit. Other interactable hexes on the map are similarly menu-driven, although these tend towards giving more of a choice of tests for various outcomes. The main exception of this would be dungeons. Instead of exploring inside of a dungeon, dungeons are just a linear series of rooms, automatically visited one after the other, which may contain combats, treasure, shops, traps, and so forth. At the end of each dungeon is something of import, usually a chaos generator, that can be deactivated to prevent the rise of chaos for a while. So with all of this exploration, another major part of the game is combat. It's relatively straightforward, with turns based on character speed. When the character's turn rolls around, they may freely use healing items from their inventory, then select an attack or action based on their equipment. This is usually a choice of different attack modes based on your weapon. Each attack basically consists of a test, involving different numbers of attempts based on the accuracy, with a special effect kicking in if it ends up a perfect success. Other than that, the fight simply proceeds through based on the character's speed. Simple overall, but vastly differing speeds can mean that certain characters, or monsters even, can go a few times before their opponents get a turn, and different combinations of buffs and debuffs can make for very challenging encounter scenarios, especially in dungeons, or when you get a few different monsters and adjacent hexes on the overworld all assisting one another. After combat experience is gained, as mentioned above, and there may be loot. Characters can freely collect or equip a variety of weapons and armor, and when they are adjacent to one another on the map, they may exchange them, or sell them back in town for extra gold. So don't worry too much if one of your characters finds a weapon that another character could use, but the other one is just too far away to get it. You can just go trade it back to them. One final note on combat is that being defeated with a particular character isn't necessarily the end of the game. Characters can be saved from death if they've devoted themselves to different shrines, or if another character comes around to revive them. If they aren't revived, they may have the option to respawn in town with an XP hit after a certain number of turns. Your characters can only be brought back a certain number of times, however, and eventually the last character will die for the last time, and it'll be game over. However, as this game has roguelike roots, that's actually to be expected. You can then use lore that you found during the game to unlock items, events, and characters for future playthroughs, so there is a little bit of persistence. Graphically, the game has a delightful low-poly style that feels just right for what it's trying to do. Just cute enough to be charming, but not so much as to feel out of place or childish. I'm not sure whether this enables lower-end machines to handle it well, but I do know that it makes for a smooth and pleasant experience on mine. The music is well done as well, with the score being pretty pleasant to listen to throughout my playtime. I do have some issues with various interface elements, as some of them are not quite clear. It took me a while, for instance, to even realize you could open a character inventory and change their gear. That might just be me, however. Once you get used to it, it's really not that clunky, just a little ill-explained. Now, there are a few things that I would criticize about For the King. One of them, or at least a particular note more than a complaint, is one that's common for a lot of RNG-based games. The game itself is challenging even on the lower difficulty levels and simply increases from there, but a large amount of your success in a particular playthrough is going to be dependent on the early random events and what gear you can find. Like most randomized games, if you play wisely, you can mitigate this somewhat, but it can be very easy to let things build up and become overwhelming if you get a string of bad results. This can put people off of the game who aren't a fan of RNG-centric games, and for those who are fans of such randomization, there are arguably better games out there for that. However, I don't believe that there are many that have the same sort of feel and character, and that itself might be a draw. Also, if you're picking this up primarily for the multiplayer aspect, understand that the turn-based nature of the game and the limitations on movement which the multiplayer inherits from the single-player game may make it less appealing. There is certainly a place for multiplayer in the game, but it feels trapped within the constraints of design decisions taken for the single-player mode. Overall, though, I am very pleased with For the King. It certainly isn't for everyone. If you get easily frustrated by a cruel RNG or other event beyond your control, then you're probably going to want to give this one a miss. However, if you're the sort who's willing to put up with the careful progression that such a thing requires, and you're looking for something that mixes decently complex CRPG abilities and stats with a tabletop gaming feel, then it might be worth looking into. In terms of price, I think the base price line is pretty adequate for what they offer, although it'll probably be a much more attractive option if you can get it on sale. And for now, I will call it here. As always, links will be in the description below. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday for the King. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. If you're feeling particularly generous, I do have a Patreon at patreon.com/rpgcrawler that goes towards supporting the channel and getting reviews such as this one done. Until next time, take care and goodbye.